Hi everybody, welcome to what I'm working on Wednesday on Chorus Girl Quilting, and this is the Love Shack edition. So we're here. I just want to give you a little update on one project and tell you about a new project I'm starting that I'm going to do exclusively down here at the Love Shack. And we're going to start with an update on the Something Fishy quilt. Like I said last week, I can take this anywhere, so I decided to bring it with me. And the first few days we were here, I made a block a day. They're not super hard, but they are kind of tedious. They take a couple hours each. But I have 3 finished right now, and I have a 4th one in progress. But we have a largemouth bass, and we have it's called a grayling. These are all supposed to be freshwater fish, I think. This is a grayling. I have no idea. Never heard of that before. And then we have a sunfish. So far, he's my favorite because he's kind of cute. Has a little, looks like he's grinning. But anyway, so this is that's where I am on that. There's 12 of these fish altogether. I lost my pen for that. 12 of these fish altogether. I'll go in another Wednesday, what I'm working on Wednesday, I'll go a little more in depth as to how this works and how foundation paper piecing works, but it does take a little bit of time. So I'm going to try and figure out a more efficient way to show you how that goes. But what I'm working on down here is it's a style of quilt that I've always been really curious about. There's tons and tons and tons of different patterns done in this style, and it's called, and I hope I'm saying this word correctly, it's called a Bargello quilt, or Bargello, don't know which. I'll find out, and next time I'm working on this, I'll say what's correct. But this pattern was in a magazine of mine, a quilting magazine. It's called Fire and Ice. The designer is, where's she at? Nope. Oh, Ann Lauer from Helena, Montana. And so it's based on strip piecing. So, and you get these crazy waves and points and movement, but there are some that are super elaborate, like the colors wind around each other. They're really cool. But you start with a couple of rolls of pre-cut 2.5-inch strips, and when you go shopping for those, if you're a quilt curious but not a quilter, we call those pre-cuts. And they have all kinds of names like jelly rolls and charm packs and layer cakes. And so what I'm using is a jelly roll pack. And this pattern calls for 2 of those. And generally, when you buy a jelly roll, it has 40 or 42 strips. And there's usually 2 of every color or print in that particular designer's line of fabric. So I decided I wasn't going to go great guns and spend tons of money. So I have a favorite place that I go when I'm down here called the Rag Barn, and they have it's kind of like a fabric outlet. So sometimes they have these jelly rolls and layer cakes there. So I got a couple of rolls for basically the price I would have paid for one at my regular shop. What's great about them is that they're already cut and I don't have to cut them 2.5-inch strips. What's not so great about them is they have this, see the wavy edge here? That's called pinking. And if you've ever been around somebody who sews, they probably have a pair of these. These are called pinking shears, and they make the zigzag cut. The idea behind that was that it keeps the fabric from fraying and raveling. And in theory, yes, but in practice, no. See all these little, those pinked edges make all these little fabric crumbs. I'm going to call them fabric dandruff. So, so they're kind of messy to work with, but convenient. So these two jelly rolls that I bought had 42 strips, but they only had 14 different fabrics. There were 3 of each color instead of 2 with more colors. And at the time, when I bought those, I was also cutting fabric for the Pixel quilt, the Jeep quilt. And if you haven't seen that, I'll link that last update in this video. And so I just started, as I was finishing up each color, I saved out some colors and just added them to the mix. And what we have here are lots of pinks, and there's some metallics, and no rhyme, not any real rhyme or reason. So there's my jelly roll strips, and so now I have 20 different colors and prints. And I have to make strip sets which look like this. So I just laid them out in a way that I thought was kind of pleasing. So this is one of the strip sets. This is a width of fabric, and notice one side is really uneven. It's just because none of these are the same length. It didn't shift or anything. They're just not the same length, and which is fine. So what will happen next, and also I numbered each one on the jagged edge here. I numbered each fabric in the selvage because that's going to be important later. I have to make 4 identical sets like this. They need to be just the same and in the same order. And then the next thing I do is I take that set and I sew it into a big tube like so. And then, and I'll show you this, what I will do in the pattern instructions, it tells me I'm going to take 2 of these sets and they're going to be my odd numbered rows, and this runs in vertical rows. They'll be my odd numbered rows, and then 2 of my sets will be my even numbered rows. So I thought while I was here, I would just work exclusively on the odds for right now. I'm sorry, my dog is being so wiggly. He's making a lot of noise. So I just decided I was going to work on the odds. So I'm going to cut a few of these into vertical strips, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I have now cut 2 sections. This will be row number 1, and I cut 2 of each because this quilt is done in 2 big halves, and then you sew the halves together. So, and they're again, those are identical halves as well. So here's the crazy part. Here's the part that seems kind of weird. So I'm going to take these 2 sections right here, and I'm going to remove the stitching between color number 1 and color number 20, which is this charcoal gray right here, dark charcoal, and this light blue. So I'm going to just kind of pull a little bit, and I'm going to turn it right side out because I learned something recently about using a seam ripper that makes seam ripping incredibly easy. See that little red ball there? You are supposed to use this with the ball down and the sharp pointy part up. And then ideally, you're supposed to just be able to, it's hard to hold here, slide that seam ripper just right along that seam, and you don't end up ripping a hole in your fabric. And I'm thinking, I have been sewing in some fashion since I was a young teenager, and nobody ever told me that. I saw it in a video. So thank you, YouTube. So then that will lay in the quilt top to bottom like so. And that's row number 1. So, and remember, we're doing odds, all the odd rows. So here's row number 3, and I am supposed to rip out the stitching between rows 19 and 18. So here, we know this is 20, the blue. So here's 19 and here's 18. So I will be ripping that out right here, like so. And I'll do that for the other section as well. And so then I think it will go, oh, I hope it goes, now I'm not really sure which way it goes in the quilt, but we'll figure that out. And what I will end up doing, okay, it's going to go like this because it will kind of offset that color and it will start that movement through the quilt. So then what I will do, I have my trusty little Sharpie here and some little pieces of paper. I'm going to write the row number on my piece of paper. So here's number 1. Number 1. And then I'm just going to stick a pin in that at the top so I know that's the top of my row. And it's row number 1, working from left to right. And then I'm going to make a number 3 for this one and do the same thing. Ta-da! So there we go. That's how we'll be organizing that. And that's the Bargello quilt or Bargello or whatever. I promise next time I'm talking about this quilt, which will probably be in about a month, I'll have it figured out, and maybe I'll have some more history information about it. So, hope you're having a great week. Like and subscribe, and we will see you on Sunday for Show and Tell Sunday. Bye.